My dear friends, tonight I want to speak to you about a rhythm. Not a rhythm that you hear with your ears, but a rhythm that moves beneath all creation. A rhythm that is present in the blooming of a flower, in the birth of a star, in the healing of the body, in the unfolding of a dream, in the quiet transformation of a human life. It is the rhythm by which the invisible becomes visible. It is the rhythm by which an inner assumption becomes an outer fact. It is the rhythm by which consciousness, when directed with love, clarity, persistence, and trust, reshapes the world you experience. And if you understand this rhythm, if you practice it sincerely, if you return to it again and again until it becomes natural to you, then the life you have called impossible begins to lose its impossibility. Not because you forced the world, not because you manipulated people, not because you fought harder, but because you learned to cooperate with law. And I want you to understand from the beginning, this is not magic. It may feel magical when it begins to work in your life. It may appear miraculous when the door opens, when the person arrives, when the healing begins, when the opportunity comes, when the circumstances rearrange themselves in ways you could never have planned. But it is not magic. It is law. It is the law of consciousness. It is the law that says your outer world is a reflection of your inner state. It is the law that says what you assume with feeling, what you persist in as your inner reality must eventually seek expression in the world of form. It is the law that says the invisible is the cause and the visible is the effect. Most people live only in the visible. They look at the bank account, the body, the relationship, the condition, the report, the past, the opinion, the obstacle, and they say, this is reality. But I want to invite you tonight to look deeper. The visible world is not the beginning. The visible world is the result. What you see now is not the final truth. It is the shadow of previous states of consciousness. It is the echo of old assumptions. It is the outer picture formed from inner patterns that have been repeated, believed, felt, and accepted. And if the outer world is a reflection, then your task is not to spend your life wrestling with the mirror. Your task is to return to the source. Your task is to change the state. Your task is to enter a new consciousness so deeply, so faithfully, so lovingly that the reflection must change. Tonight I want to give you a simple cycle, 4 stages, 4 movements of consciousness, 4 steps that, when practiced with sincerity and persistence, can become a sacred method of transformation. The first stage is clarity. The second stage is assumption. The third stage is persistence. The fourth stage is release. Clarity, assumption, persistence, release. This is the creative cycle. And when you repeat this cycle, not mechanically, not anxiously, not as a superstition, but with real understanding and heartfelt attention, you begin to saturate your consciousness with a new concept of yourself. And when your concept of yourself changes, your life cannot remain the same. Let us begin with clarity. My dear friends, many people say they want change, but they are not clear about what they truly desire. They say, I want more money. But what does that mean? More by how much? For what purpose? To feel what? Freedom, security, generosity, peace. They say, I want love. But what is the state of love they desire? Is it companionship, tenderness, partnership, mutual respect, emotional safety, shared purpose? They say, I want health. But what does health feel like to them? Energy in the morning, ease in the body, strength in movement, joy in breathing, confidence in the body's intelligence. They say, I want success. But what is success? Recognition, creative expression, meaningful work, financial expansion, the ability to serve, the ability to live freely. Vague desire creates vague movement. Clarity gives consciousness direction. If you do not know where you are going inwardly, you will drift according to old patterns. Your imagination will be used by fear, by memory, by comparison, by the opinions of others. And without clarity, you may spend your life asking for something you have never truly defined. So the first act of creation is to become still enough to know what you really desire. Not what the world told you to want, not what your ego wants to prove, not what you think would impress others, but what your deeper self is calling you toward. Ask yourself, what is the state I truly desire to occupy? Not merely, what object do I want? But what state of being is calling me? Because everything you want is desired because of a state. You want the home because of the feeling of peace, belonging, beauty, safety, and expansion. You want the relationship because of the feeling of love, intimacy, and being seen. You want the abundance because of the feeling of freedom, generosity, and ease. You want the healing because of the feeling of aliveness and wholeness. So clarify the state. Say it. Namit it. Feel its essence. Do not rush this step. Clarity is not a small thing. It is sacred. It is the moment you stop scattering your power and begin gathering it into one clear stream. A scattered mind produces scattered results. A clear consciousness becomes creative. Now, once clarity is established, you move to the second stage, assumption. This is where transformation begins to become real within you. Assumption means that you enter psychologically into the state of your wish fulfilled. You do not merely think about it. You do not merely wish for it. You do not stand outside of it saying, I hope someday this will happen. You enter it. You occupy it. You begin to feel inwardly what it would feel like if the desire were already fulfilled. If you desire abundance, ask yourself, how would I feel if abundance were natural to me now? Would you feel relieved? Would you feel generous? Would you feel free? Would you feel calm when you look at your finances? Would you move through the world with less fear and more trust? That feeling is the doorway. If you desire health, ask yourself, how would I feel if my body were vibrant, strong, and deeply supported by life? Would you feel gratitude? Would you feel ease? Would you feel confidence in your body? Would you breathe differently? Would you walk differently? If you desire love, ask, how would I feel if I were already loved, already chosen, already secure in a beautiful connection? Would your heart soften? Would you stop chasing? Would you stop proving? Would you rest in the feeling of being cherished? This is assumption. It is not pretending. Pretending is shallow. Pretending knows it is acting from the outside. Assumption is deeper. Assumption is an inner shift of identity. It says, I am willing to become the person for whom this reality is natural. You must understand this. You do not attract what you want while remaining loyal to the identity that contradicts it. You cannot remain inwardly poor and experience abundance as natural. You cannot remain inwardly unloved and experience love without fear. You cannot remain inwardly identified with illness and fully receive the state of wholeness. Something in you must die, and something in you must be born. Now, I do not mean physical death, I mean psychological death. The death of the old self-concept, the old story, the old identity, the old I am. The I am not enough. The I am always rejected. The I am unlucky. The I am stuck. The I am too old. The I am too late. The I am unsupported. Those old identities must be allowed to dissolve. And in their place, a new self-concept is born. I am guided. I am supported. I am loved. I am free. I am whole. I am abundant. I am the person for whom this good is natural. This is the rebirth that all spiritual traditions point toward. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Put off the old man and put on the new. Die to the old state and rise into the new one. This is not poetry only, it is practical psychology. It is spiritual law. To assume the wish fulfilled, create a simple inner scene that would imply your desire is already realized. Do not make it complicated. If your desire is abundance, perhaps you imagine looking at your account and feeling peaceful, or hearing someone say, you are so free now, or seeing yourself giving generously without fear. If your desire is love, perhaps you imagine holding someone's hand and feeling safe, or hearing the words, I love being with you, or sitting quietly with someone and feeling complete ease. If your desire is health, perhaps you imagine walking with strength, or hearing your doctor say, everything looks wonderful, or simply feeling the joy of waking up energized. The scene should imply completion, not trying, not becoming, not searching. Completion. Then enter the scene. Do not watch it as a movie. Be there. Look through your own eyes. Hear what you would hear. Touch what you would touch. Feel what you would feel. Let the body receive the emotional reality of fulfillment. The feeling is the secret. A cold affirmation rarely transforms consciousness. But one moment of feeling, one moment of inner naturalness, one moment in which your whole being says, yes, this is now who I am, has enormous creative power. That is assumption. Now comes the third stage, persistence. And this is where many people lose the seed. They get clear. They assume the fulfilled state for a moment. They feel inspired, but then the senses begin to speak. The bank account still looks the same. The body still has symptoms. The person still has not called. The opportunity has not appeared. The old condition is still visible. And then they say, it did not work. But my dear friends, you must understand something very important. The visible world is often the last thing to change. The seed is planted before the tree appears. The roots grow before the branches spread. The dawn begins before the sun is seen. When you assume a new state, the first changes are often invisible. They begin beneath the surface, in your perception, in your nervous system, in your intuition, in the field of possibility, in conversations that have not yet reached you, in circumstances that are quietly rearranging. If you abandon the assumption simply because the outer world has not instantly confirmed it, you keep returning to the old state before the new one can take root. Persistence means fidelity. It means loyalty to the new state. It does not mean strain. It does not mean forcing. It does not mean repeating words with anxiety. It means you remain inwardly faithful to what you have accepted as true in consciousness. The senses may show you evidence of the old state. You say, that is the shadow of yesterday. Fear may arise. You say, I see you, but I do not follow you. Doubt may whisper, nothing is happening. You say, the roots are growing. Circumstances may appear unchanged. You say, the visible is catching up to the invisible. This is persistence, not fighting fear, not wrestling with doubt, not arguing with appearances, simply returning, again and again, returning to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, returning to the self-concept you have chosen, returning to the inner scene, returning to the state. Every return strengthens the new pattern. Every return withdraws energy from the old identity. Every return says to consciousness, this is where I now live. And this is why repetition is powerful. In your original script, the number 100 is used as a symbol of deep persistence, saturation, and completeness. 100 repetitions means you do not merely touch the new state once. You immerse yourself in it again and again until it becomes familiar, until it becomes normal, until the old state begins to feel foreign. Now, do not misunderstand this. It is not the number by itself that creates the result. 100 empty repetitions done without feeling, without presence, without sincerity are not as powerful as one moment of deep assumption. But repetition with feeling is transformative. Why? Because your current life is also the result of repetition. You have repeated certain assumptions for years. You have repeated fears. You have repeated stories. You have repeated identities. You have repeated reactions. You have repeated inner conversations. And those repetitions have carved pathways in consciousness. So now, through conscious repetition, you are carving a new pathway. You are creating a new normal. At first, the new state may feel unfamiliar. Then it begins to feel possible. Then it begins to feel natural. Then it begins to feel inevitable. And finally, it begins to feel like who you are. That is the point at which manifestation accelerates, because there is no longer a war inside you. There is no longer one part saying, I am abundant, while another says, no, I am afraid. No longer one part saying, I am loved, while another says, no, I am unwanted. No longer one part saying, I am healed, while another says, no, I am broken. The state becomes unified, and a unified state is powerful. Think of consciousness like a stream that has been flowing in one direction for many years. It has carved a deep channel. Your habitual thoughts and assumptions have created that channel. When you first introduce a new assumption, it may feel like trying to redirect a river. The old current still has force. But if you persist, if you continue redirecting the stream, if you continue returning to the new channel, eventually the water begins to flow there naturally. This is what repetition does. It creates momentum. It turns the inner wheel. The first few repetitions may feel effortful. The mind may resist. The old identity may argue, but continue. Continue not harshly, but faithfully. Continue until the new assumption has weight, warmth, and presence within you. This brings us to the fourth stage, release. This stage is essential. Many people clarify, they assume, they persist, but they never release. They hold their desire with anxiety. They plant the seed and then dig it up every hour to see if it is growing. They ask, when will it happen? How will it happen? Is it working? Where is the sign? Why has nothing changed yet? This is not faith. This is fear wearing spiritual language. Release does not mean giving up your desire. Release means giving up anxiety about your desire. Release means you stop trying to manage the timing. Release means you stop insisting that the universe use your preferred method. Release means you stop needing constant evidence to feel secure. Release means you rest. This is the Sabbath of the creative cycle. In Scripture, the Sabbath is not laziness. It is sacred rest after the creative act. It is the recognition that what has been done inwardly is enough. The seed has been planted, the law is operating. The invisible is arranging itself. You do not need to hover over it with fear. You do not need to tell everyone and seek their approval. You do not need to check the outer world every few minutes. You do not need to force the bridge of events. Release says, "It is done in consciousness. I now allow life to unfold the form." This is one of the most difficult stages for the ego because the ego loves control. The ego wants to know how. The ego wants proof. The ego wants timelines. The ego wants guarantees. But the soul knows how to trust. The soul says, "I have entered the state. I have felt the wish fulfilled. I have planted the seed. Now I rest in the knowing that consciousness knows how to express itself." This release removes resistance. Anxiety is resistance. Constant checking is resistance. Trying to force the method is resistance. Complaining that it is not here yet is resistance. All of these imply that you do not actually feel it as done. But when you release, you are saying, "I already possess it in consciousness. I do not need to chase what is already mine inwardly. I allow the outer world to catch up." Now, let us return to the idea of repeating this cycle 100 times. Again, do not make the number superstitious. Let it be symbolic of full devotion, full saturation, full willingness to live from the new state. You may practice this cycle in the morning and evening. If you do that for 50 days, you have 100 formal sessions. The morning practice sets the tone for the day. The evening practice impresses the subconscious before sleep, when the deeper mind is most receptive. Or you may practice more frequently. You may return to the feeling throughout the day whenever your mind is quiet. You may take a moment while walking, while resting, before a meeting, before sleep, upon waking, and gently re-enter the state. But whatever method you choose, remember this: quality matters more than mechanical quantity. 1 repetition with complete absorption is powerful. 10 repetitions with emotional sincerity are powerful. 100 repetitions that gradually make the fulfilled state your home are very powerful. But 100 repetitions done as a tense ritual while secretly believing nothing will happen will only exhaust you. So do it with reverence. Do it with love. Do it as a sacred turning inward. Do it not to pressure the universe, but to train your consciousness. Do it to become familiar with the person you are choosing to be. Now, during this period, protect your assumption. This is important. Do not carry your desire into conversations with people who will mock it, question it, or pull you back into the old identity. Not everyone is meant to witness the seed before it sprouts. A seed grows in darkness before it breaks through the soil. Your desire may also need sacred privacy while it is taking root. Be careful what you read. Be careful what you watch. Be careful what inner conversations you entertain. Be careful how often you rehearse the old story. If you desire abundance, do not spend the day consuming fear about scarcity. If you desire health, do not feed your mind constantly with images of decline. If you desire love, do not rehearse abandonment every hour. If you desire success, do not keep identifying with failure. This does not mean you deny practical reality. It means you stop worshiping it. You can handle what must be handled while still remaining inwardly faithful to the new state. You can pay a bill while feeling abundance. You can visit a doctor while assuming health. You can set a boundary while assuming love and peace. You can work toward your dream while assuming that the end is already fulfilled in consciousness. This is spiritual maturity. Now, I want to speak about signs. As you persist in the new state, you may notice small changes: a conversation, a coincidence, a sudden idea, a helpful person, a new opportunity, an unexpected shift in your own emotional response. These are like the first green shoots breaking through the soil. Receive them with gratitude, but do not become dependent on them. Do not say, "I need signs in order to believe." Faith that depends on signs is still unstable. Instead, say, "Thank you, the seed is growing," and keep returning to the state. If no signs appear immediately, do not panic. The invisibility of growth is not the absence of growth. The acorn contains the oak even when the eye cannot see it. The child grows in the womb before the world can hold it. The deepest transformations often begin in silence. Trust the invisible process. Now let us go even deeper. Why does this cycle work? It works because the outer world is not independent of consciousness. Your perception, your assumptions, your self-concept, your emotional expectations, these form the inner pattern from which your experience unfolds. Modern science tells us that what appears solid is not as solid as it seems. Matter is energy, pattern, relationship, space, vibration. But long before science described it this way, mystics understood that reality is responsive to consciousness. This does not mean that you control every event with your ego. It means that consciousness is participatory. You are not merely looking at a finished world. You are involved in the world you experience. The state you occupy determines what you notice, what you expect, what you accept, how you act, how others respond to you, what opportunities you recognize, and what possibilities become available. When you change your state, you change your relationship to the entire field of life, and life begins to respond accordingly. This is why there is nothing to change but self. Not the small self of ego, but the inner state of being. Change your concept of self, and your world must begin to reorganize. If you see yourself as abandoned, you will interpret life through abandonment. If you see yourself as supported, you will begin to notice support. If you see yourself as stuck, you will miss doors. If you see yourself as guided, you will hear the whisper. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will push away good. If you see yourself as one with the divine source, you will become available to grace. The self-concept is the lens. And when the lens changes, the world changes. Now, some people ask, can I use this for others? Yes, but with love and humility. You do not use consciousness to dominate another person. That is not love. That is ego. But you can hold another person in the highest assumption. If someone you love is ill, you can imagine them well, see them vibrant, hear their voice strong, feel gratitude for their healing, not as manipulation, but as blessing. If there is conflict, you can imagine peace, hear kind words, feel understanding, not to control the other, but to stop feeding the state of discord. If someone is struggling, you can assume their strength, their clarity, their awakening. This is a beautiful use of imagination. You are not imposing. You are offering a higher state in consciousness. Love always imagines the highest. Fear rehearses the worst. So use your imagination as love. Now, some of you may wonder whether to apply this cycle to many desires at once. In the beginning, I recommend one primary desire. Not because you are limited, but because focus builds power. Choose one state, enter it fully, practice it faithfully. Let yourself experience the law working in one area. Once you have seen it, once your faith deepens through experience, you will naturally become more skillful in applying it to other areas. But begin with clarity. One desire, one fulfilled state, one inner scene, one new self-concept. Repeat the cycle. Clarity, assumption, persistence, release, again and again, until the state becomes natural. Now, I want to give you a practical structure. For the next 50 days, practice morning and evening. In the morning, before the world fills your mind, sit quietly, clarify your desire, enter the fulfilled state, feel it, then release the day into divine order. In the evening, before sleep, return again. Enter the scene, feel the wish fulfilled, let gratitude fill you, then fall asleep in the assumption. This gives you 100 formal repetitions, but do not make it heavy. Make it sacred. Make it intimate. Make it joyful. You are not doing spiritual homework to earn a reward. You are remembering how to create consciously. During the day when doubt arises, do not fight it. Simply return. When appearances contradict you, return. When old thoughts come back, return. When nothing seems to be happening, return. This single word, return, is central. Return to the state. Return to the end. Return to trust. Return to the feeling. Return to the self you have chosen. And after each return, release. Rest. Trust. Let life move. Now, my dear friends, I want to address something that may be hidden in your heart. Some of you may feel unworthy of your desire. You may think, who am I to have this? Who am I to be loved? Who am I to be abundant? Who am I to heal? Who am I to live freely? And I say to you, that question comes from the old self. The deeper question is not, who am I to receive? The deeper truth is, who am I not to receive if the divine lives within me? You are not asking for something separate from God. You are allowing God to express more fully through you. Abundance expressed through you can bless others. Healing expressed through you can inspire others. Love expressed through you can soften the world. Success expressed through you can become service. Peace expressed through you can calm a household. Do not confuse humility with self-denial. True humility is not saying, I am nothing. True humility is saying, of myself, the small ego can do nothing. But with the divine presence within me, all things are possible. So let yourself receive. Let yourself assume. Let yourself become. Now, as we approach the close of this teaching, I want you to remember the whole cycle once more. First, clarity. Know what you desire. Define the state. Gather your attention. Stop being vague with your own soul. Second, assumption. Enter the fulfilled state. Feel it as real now. Become inwardly the person for whom this desire is already natural. Third, persistence. Remain faithful to the new state regardless of appearances. Return whenever fear, doubt, or old evidence appears. Let repetition build momentum. Fourth, release. Let go of anxiety, timing, method, and desperate checking. Rest in the knowing that what is planted in consciousness will express in form. This cycle, repeated with sincerity, becomes a spiritual discipline and a creative law in practice. Do it 100 times if that helps you saturate the mind. Do it morning and evening. Do it before sleep. Do it upon waking. But above all, do it with feeling. Without feeling, it is mechanical. With feeling, it is alive. And remember, feeling does not always mean dramatic emotion. Sometimes the most powerful feeling is naturalness. The quiet sense of course this is my life. The simple inner knowing, this is done. The calm relief of already being home. That naturalness is profound. When your desire feels natural inwardly, it is near. When it feels like who you are, it must express. So tonight, when you return home, begin. Do not wait until circumstances improve. Do not wait until you feel more worthy. Do not wait until fear disappears. Begin now. The present moment is the only doorway. Choose one desire. Clarify it. Assume it. Persist in it. Release it. And repeat the cycle until your consciousness is so filled with the new state that the old one no longer feels like home. Then watch. Watch not with anxiety, but with wonder. Watch how ideas come. Watch how conversations shift. Watch how timing changes. Watch how your own behavior becomes more aligned. Watch how people and circumstances begin to meet the new self-concept. Watch how the world, which once seemed fixed, reveals itself to be far more responsive than you imagined. And when it happens, do not call it luck. Do not call it coincidence. Give thanks. Recognize law. Recognize grace. Recognize the divine intelligence moving through consciousness into form. My dear friends, you are not helpless observers of life. You are not here merely to react to circumstances. You are not trapped inside the old story. Within you is the power of awareness. Within you is the sacred I am. Within you is imagination, the creative workshop of God. Within you is the capacity to choose a state and live from it until the world reflects it. Use this power wisely. Use it lovingly. Use it not to control others, but to awaken yourself. Use it not from fear, but from trust. Use it not as a desperate attempt to escape life, but as a sacred way to cooperate with life. For when consciousness leads, reality follows. When the inner state changes, the outer reflection must change. When you live from the wish fulfilled, the world begins to rearrange around that fulfillment. This is the promise. This is the rhythm. This is the law. Clarity, assumption, persistence, release. Return to it. Practice it. Live it. Let it become natural. And one day, you will look back at the circumstances that once seemed immovable and realize they were never as solid as you thought. They were shadows. And when you changed the light within you, the shadows changed. So go now in peace. Go now with purpose. Go now with the quiet confidence of one who understands that the kingdom is within. Begin tonight. Plant the seed. Repeat the cycle. Trust the process. And let your life become the beautiful expression of the consciousness you have chosen to occupy. For all things are possible to the one who believes not merely with the lips, but with the whole state of being. Believe by assuming, persist by returning, release by trusting, and allow reality to reshape itself in harmony with the truth you have accepted within.